Welcome, everybody, to part 5 of God Is That You? And in this series of talks, we're simply addressing a big issue and question that all of us struggle with and want to grow in, and that is how to recognize when God's talking to us and to understand the different ways that God does communicate to us so that we can become more fluent in hearing the Lord and communicating with God and so on. Our foundation text for this series is Job chapter 33, verse 14, which says, "For God does speak, now one way, now another, though people do not perceive it." So the problem isn't that God's not talking or communicating. The problem is that people don't perceive or recognize, and we don't regard what God is saying either. And by that, we're saying sometimes we don't care what God has to say. We don't really want to hear it. Even if we do hear it, we don't really want to pay attention or listen or apply it to our lives. And that's going to be a problem. So far in this series of talks, we have been addressing the breakdowns of communication. Like, why is it that we would not perceive, not recognize, or and have these breakdowns in our communication? And I'm not going to go back over all of those. I actually said we were going to start looking at the ways that God does talk to us in this particular session, but I have to take a step backward and address one more factor in why we have breakdowns in our communication with God. And the bottom line is that the one other breakdown that we oftentimes don't think about is the issue of faith. And so that's what I want to talk to you about today. And bottom line, faith simply means trust or to have confidence in. So if I have faith in something or someone, then I'm saying that I have trust in them or I have confidence in them. And faith, friends, is not some weird, mysterious, spiritual, religious word. It is a very practical word. I trust that the bench I'm sitting on right now would hold me, and so I didn't even bother to check it to see if it would. I just sat down on it. So when you put your trust, when you put your confidence, when you put your faith in something or someone, all the same word, okay? Now, let's apply that to communication with God, or with anyone for that matter. If I don't believe in that person, if I don't have a trust or confidence or faith that that person is going to be faithful to communicate, is able to communicate clearly, is a person who is a person of character and integrity, so that I can trust what they say when they speak. If I don't believe those things, if I don't have that faith, that trust and confidence that God is going to speak to me, and that when he does speak, I can trust what he says, then that's going to be a serious communication breakdown, because I'm not going to be putting a lot of hope that he will talk to me out there. So I'm not going to be looking for it. And even when it does come, I probably won't recognize it, because if I don't have faith that he's faithful to communicate, and to communicate clearly, and to communicate honestly and with integrity, to keep his word, if I don't believe those things, I'm not going to pursue a deeper understanding of communication with God. I'm not going to be paying attention and watching for his communication to me. And even if I do recognize it, I'm not going to listen or respond, because I'm not confident that he is going to, that it's true or trustworthy, that he's going to follow through, that it's dependable. All of those things come into question. So here's the rub. If I don't believe, if I don't have faith, God tells us in Romans chapter 1 that from beginning to end, this relationship with God, this journey called life, is by faith. That every promise of God is entered into by faith, that we receive it by faith. And so if I don't trust or believe or have faith and confidence, then I'm going to have a very serious problem, a very serious breakdown in recognizing, accepting, trusting, and acting on and the communication that God would want to bring into my life. So, how do I grow in faith? Well, it's in small ways. The first is Romans 10:17 says, faith comes by hearing. And if I want to have faith in God, then it says, and hearing by the word of God. So if I want to grow in my faith, my confidence then in the Lord, then I need to dig into what does God say about himself and what does he promise. That is our next piece. In addition to that, I also have to act on it, because information by itself isn't enough. I have to have an experience, okay? And anybody who says that God has asked for us to have blind faith does not understand faith and does not understand the biblical description of faith. So the second thing is put what you read in the Bible into action. Because through your experiences of God being faithful and God showing up and God talking to you in small ways that you recognize and act on, then that builds confidence even more. Because you know what? So far, I've had a good experience. So far, God's showed up. God's been faithful. He said this, he did that. We can go to the next level. So I would be doing an injustice if I did not address this particular aspect of this factor in breakdowns in communication. Jesus said it this way: according to your faith, so be it done unto you. So if you believe that you can't hear and that God won't speak and that he, even if he does talk, he won't do for you what he might be doing for others, but it's not going to happen for you, then you're right. It won't happen. But if you can dare to step out and take God, even on a little promise, and put it into practice in your life, then your faith will continue to grow and you will continue to go deeper in your relationship with God and experience greater and greater degrees of his manifest presence in your life, including effective communication with God. Have a wonderful day. And in the next talk, we're going to start discussing the different ways that God does talk to us. So, best dog in the world. Have an awesome day. God bless.